There's a brand new Top 10 podcast, kind of. The latest from our daily newsletter at podnews.net.
Hello.
And welcome
to My Favorite Murder.
Podtrac has published the top 20 podcasts for the US for April. There's no change in the top 5, but My Favorite Murder is brand new at number 6. Amazon bought the rights in January. It's already a top 10 podcast with Triton Digital's podcast ranker and Edison Research's podcast consumer tracking report. Podtrac's data is participating publishers only, seemingly now including Exactly Right Media. Of interest, Anchor artwork appears as Google's knowledge graph image for My Favorite Murder rather than the real podcast image. On Spotify, a search for My Favorite Murder takes you to a poorly produced music album by Penny Bank called Murder Podcasts, with somebody reading out a critique of podcast artwork over a cheap electronic drum beat.
It is like a serial killer would make a note that's cut out of different magazine clippings and piece them together to make words. And it says My Favorite Murder with so-and-so and so-and-so.
Somebody's getting paid for that. Also on Spotify, a set of more than 10 playlists with the artwork and shows jumbled up into a random order. Spotify respects the rights of intellectual property owners, the company says, though when we tried to find that quote, Spotify's main website had fallen over. In other news, Veritonic has just launched an attribution solution to measure ad performance across apps, hosting platforms and listening devices. Slate has announced that Slown Burn Season 7 will be about Roe versus Wade. It's a good reminder that podcasts over any other medium can be agile and reflect current events. Are you in the UK? Do you make podcasts? Can you help Audio UK understand the value of the podcasts you make? The industry body has launched the 2022 Audio Production Census today. It's open to UK audio production companies of all sizes, as well as freelancers and those otherwise working independently to produce their own radio programs, podcasts and audiobooks. Nielsen's Grace Note is to work with Samsung Free to help them deliver better podcast recommendations and discovery. Grace Note contains enriched information about more than 2 million podcasts. The Podcast Show 2022 in London will start with a keynote from Podnews' editor, James Cridland, that's me, on the present and future of podcasting. If you'd like, you can use code PODNEWS to save on your ticket. We're a media partner. Facebook has started emailing podcasters, telling them that podcasts on Facebook are going away, though they never launched them outside the US anyway. It's up to us to tell our audience. The New Zealand Podcasting Summit 2022 is on Saturday, May the 14th in Auckland. Expect speakers from Community Radio, as well as Acast, Triton Digital, Rode and RNZ. A new service called Podcards makes beautiful podcast cards for sharing in social media or for newsletters. It's free. Speaker submissions for Podcast Movement are closing on Friday evening. The event is in Dallas in Texas this August. Popular audio editor Hindenburg can now publish directly to Headliner. Headliner itself has also added support for automated uploading to LinkedIn. Podcast hosting tool Sounder has revealed a new analytics dashboard, including scheduled email reporting. In Germany, Julep Hosting has enhanced their dynamic ad insertion tool. And in Austria, Hit Radio 3 is to launch what they call the first podcast festival in the country. Creatives Meet Creators will be held on June the 2nd in Vienna. And in podcast news, Modem Mischief is a podcast about the dark side of the internet, and in the latest episode it looks at Gamergate, described as not a pleasant story to hear, but an important story to tell. Written by Lauren Minkoff, the episode is hosted by Keith Cornlock. Digital Signage Done Right has won an IABC Gold Quill Award. The award is from the International Association of Business Communicators. The podcast itself talks about how to communicate better on digital signage and other things. Later Data is a new show from love coach Lucy Cavendish, looking at what dating, relationships and more can look like for those who want to push the boundaries a little. More boundaries that we can push in this podcast. We're broadcast in the UK, so possibly we won't mention it, but it's new from Aura Studios. And if you like stats, you'll love Margins of Error, returning for a second season from CNN Audio. This season explores more wild and weird stories behind the stats that make up our world. Host Harry Enton goes on a search for disappearing accents, investigates debates how much money actually makes us happy, wonders if love is really dead, and explores whether wearing glasses makes you look and feel smarter. And that's the latest from our newsletter. To read all the stories and subscribe, we're at podnews.net.